Now, Chibok was the first town I took a trip to when I started covering Borno State. I was part of several trips to the front lines. My name is Blessing Tuno. I am the founder of Bone Communication. Bone Communication is a media outfit for community service journalism that I established when I left my regular job as a correspondent for Channels Television in Borno State. Now, Chibok was the first town I took a trip to when I started covering Borno State. I had gone to do a story to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the abduction of the schoolgirls. That was in April 2015, and that was barely a month after I reported in Borno State. Now I recall how hectic and chaotic the journey was. The journey that was supposed to take us just 2 hours, we ended up spending 2 days to get to Chibok. We had to traverse through Yobe and Gombe states, through militarized routes and heavy checkpoints, and from Gombe we arrived in Biu, local governments of Borno State, where we spent the night, and then we continued our journey the next day through Damboa all the way to Chibok. And everyone had a story to tell. I recall feeling like I was in another world because the telecom and the internet service was bad, and a liter of petrol was 600 naira at that time, when the official pump price was less than 100 naira in the capital city. So no, it didn't feel like I was in Nigeria at all. It felt really weird to be there. It also felt eerie when we took a tour of the ill-fated school. We went to the classes, we went to the dormitories, reading inscriptions on the wall, and graffiti left by the Boko Haram, and then just going through the rubbles and all the remains of the personal effects of the abducted girls. I was suddenly overcome by sadness in a manner that I didn't anticipate. It felt really, really weird. It felt really... I became emotional, and not only me, to be honest, all of us, the journalists that were there, that's how we felt. And we found ourselves almost racing to our waiting car before it becomes too late to leave the town. It was such a relief to leave. I could literally smell danger as we drove out through the same routes that the abductors of those girls had probably used for their evil mission. I was one of the first few journalists to be embedded by the military under the Operation Lafia Dole. I was part of several trips to the front lines with the highest military command, the highest commanders of the Nigerian army. If we were not going for clearance operations, we were going for confidence building visits, or sometimes to assess locations that had been attacked or dislodged, and a lot of such visits. Now, there were a few times when we have 1 or 2 other females on the team, but then of course we're all treated as gentlemen. But then there were times that of course we didn't have the opportunity to go to the front lines when there were incidents that we needed to report. So at such times we had to rely on whatever information we get from local sources, from a second or a third party, and then that meant that for journalists covering that bit, we had to do a lot of research, and we had to study antecedents so we don't end up reporting exaggerated accounts of events that have happened, or to give out fake news. When I was deployed to Maiduguri, I was quite young then, or should I say I was younger, and it came at a time when I had become bored of reporting irregular stories that didn't make my heart beat faster. So in fact, when I got to Maiduguri, I thought Maiduguri was really boring, and because there were restrictions everywhere, and then we had a curfew, and you literally can't move, you know. And so I didn't have any life outside of work. You know, it was work, and then you are racing back home to meet up with the curfew hours. I was careful about my safety, as my editor at that time, Mr. Basha Digun, used to say that safety comes first, that no story is worth your life, that a smart journalist tells the story and does not become the story, and all of those other precautionary statement I got from my superiors, just to remind me of how I needed to be careful about my safety. So no, I never felt alone or worried about my safety when I have to travel to the front lines. Our security as embedded journalists was always prioritized, and working with the military on the front line away from the hustle and bustle in the city, shutting everyone out, was strangely therapeutic for me. And I look back with pride and immense gratitude to God for safety and to the armed forces for their protection efforts, but ultimately, security is of God. Personally, I've witnessed and reported the war, humanitarian crisis, PTSD from both the military and the civilian side, survivors of war, and all of those things, without even realizing that I was also dealing with my own journalistic PTSD baggage. So my advice would be, always think about yourself too. Always find a way to detox and to exhale as a journalist.